Hello friends, this session is all about the generator function in JavaScript. Generator function was introduced in ES6 version, so we will discuss about the generator function. Okay, so what are the things we will discuss? We will discuss when arrived. So it arrived in ES6 version. Okay, why we use? Okay, and how we use? And example and another example with async operations. Okay, so basically we will discuss these things. Okay, so what are generators? Generators are basically a different type of functions in which you have something to resume, and if you will pause something, then you can resume. That means if you want to pause something, some operations inside your function and want to return that value, then you have to call another time, and then it will start from there where you have left, and then you can run until whenever the next is called. So you will just basically create a pause, and whenever you will call it, it will resume from that pause. So basically it's like a pause and resume situation inside your function. So basically in normal function what we do, we generally execute everything whatever written in function when we call it. But in generator functions we have option to pause the execution, and we will have to take out the result. Then if we have to do the next, then it will again resume the function and give you the next value. Okay, so basically generator functions are used to manage iterator iterable values. Okay, so let's suppose your uh, function is returning something. Okay, and you want to print something from that one, then you can create a generator function and you can use that value by calling again and again inside any loop, or you can use the generator function in your asynchronous operations, so that you can call it one by one to manage your asynchronous things. Okay, so we will all discuss these things inside our example. Okay, so take the first example. What we will do, we will create a Fibonacci series function. That means we will create a function which will generate the Fibonacci series. The series will like 0, 1, then it will 1, then it will 2, then it will add 3, then it will 5, then it will 8, like this. Okay, so we will first create the generator function which will print this value. Okay, so what we will do, we will just use the function and function fab. Okay, so this is basically a normal function. When you want to convert it into the generator function, then you have to use the asterisk after the function keyword. Okay, then it will behave like a generator function. Okay, so now how can you define your generator functions resume and pause case? Okay, so basically there are keywords like yield which are used inside generator function, which is used to create the steps to whenever you want to pause, then after which it had to resume. That means when you define a yield, then it will pause at that moment. Okay, and if you again call the next, then it will start from the where it had been paused. Okay, then after it will start and will, let's see, we have a another yield. Okay, and then we have a third yield. Okay, so when you call this function, okay, fab, when you have to call, let you have to initialize this. Okay, let a equal to fab, and Here we will return 1, it will return, let's suppose 2, and it will return something 3, let's suppose. Okay, so what you will do, if you will do console.log a.next, then it will, if you do the a.next first time, then it will start from here, first line. If there will be any syntax after that, then it will execute up to that this eld. That means first pause will happen after this eld. Okay, up to this eld. Again, when you call the a.next, whenever you required, let's suppose you have some another thing you have to console it here with the value or something, there is some another execution, then after you want to call the, that means up to this time this your function is paused at this field 1. Okay, and if you want to execute next, then you have to a.next again, and it will see in the console it is printing the next value 2. That means after this one to up to this one, up to 2, it is executed. Okay, so when you call third time, then from this syntax to this syntax it will execute. Okay, okay, now you have 3 here. In if you call it another time, that it will return undefined and the status done will be true. So in all cases you have false, that means you have another yield there. Okay, so let a equal to 0. Okay, we have some value, let a equal to 0, and we will build a. Okay, now what we'll do, a equal to a plus 3. Okay, or you can say 1. Okay, now we will have here 2. Okay, and we will have 3. Okay, so we will return a. Okay, and we will return a here as well. Okay, so now what will you do, get? Okay, see, you can see that in the first yield, okay, up to this has been executed. That means a equal to has been assigned to 0 and you are getting a. Okay, that means you will get a equal to 0 in the first next. Okay, when you do the next, another next, okay, that means second time, then it will execute from here, whenever you have left from last. Okay, then it will execute from here to this. Okay, then you have value a equal to 1 there, then 1 plus 1 it will, sorry, it was 0, then it will 0 plus 1 1, so it is returning 1. Now in the third next, you have value a is 1 and you are adding 2, then from this to this it will return. Okay, and in the next 4, you will, this will not execute because there is no yield afterward. Okay, that's why you will not get the updated value, like adding 3 to 3 means 6. You will not get the value 6 here. Okay, that means your execution will last from here. Okay, so up to this you will have first pause, second pause, and then third pause. Okay, so this is the basic of the generator function. So how can you will use inside your application? Okay, so for that we will create a Fibonacci series here. Okay, so what we will do, let's suppose we have a variable a equal to 0, similarly a b equal to 1, and let we have this another variable c equal to 0, and here I will yield a, then I will yield b. Okay, now we have a for loop here up to n value. That means up to whatever the number will be passed. Okay, so we have a for value here. Let I equal to 0, I is less than n, and I plus plus. Okay. Okay. Then we have here c equal to a plus b, and then we have swapping the value a equal to b and c, sorry, b equal to c, and then we will yield c. Okay, so we have done with the generator function, which will create the Fibonacci series. So we have a for loop. That means we have yield the c value c at the last of this one loop. Okay, so it will yield 1, 2 fixed, and up to n it will be called. Means yield will be depend on the value of n. Okay, so now how will you call this and how will you execute this? Okay, so for that what you can do, let's suppose we have an variable here called next. Okay, and we will use the while case, and we will give, let's suppose up to 6 we will want to get the Fibonacci series. Okay, so while a dot next dot done, let's suppose when done will be true, our while will be break. Okay, then while will be done, we have our console dot log. Okay, so what we will do, we will store the next value inside our variable what we have defined in next. Okay, so it will basically store our result inside this next, and if it will not done, then it will execute the loop. Okay, so we will have next dot value. Okay, so in console you can see these two are fixed yield. Okay, and up to this we are printing this 1, 2, then 3, then 5, then 8, and then 13, like that. Okay, so here is the best example where you can see that how a next can be used inside a loop to get values one by one. Okay, and the last value is also stored, that doesn't, it will be initialized again if you call again. Okay, so whatever your value will be yield with paused, you will have your value saved inside your variables. Okay, and if you again resume, then you can use that variable's value. Okay, so this is the example of generator function with simple, okay, without asynchronous, means synchronous things. Okay, so we will come to the next example with async operations. Okay, so we will comment out this one, and we will go for the example with async operations. So for async operations, what we will do, we will have a scenario. Let's suppose we have 3 promises. Okay, let's suppose let p1 equal to new, we'll create a function, arrow function here. Okay, new promise, and inside promise we have reject, resolve, and reject callbacks. Okay, and here we will have some async operations. Okay, so we will basically use set timeout. Okay, for our async. Okay, to manage async. So we will pass resolve here. Okay, and we will give some timeout. Okay, and we will return, let's suppose p1. Okay, so we have a asynchronous thing which will return p1 after 1 second. Okay, similarly we will have another 2 promises. Okay, with p2, and we will have 2 millisecond here. sorry, 2 second here, and which will return p2. Now we will have 3. Okay, but it will execute it after 500 milliseconds. That means this p3 will be executed first, then p1, and then p2. Okay, but what if I need in series, response in series, p1 first, p2 first, second, then p3 third. For that we will create a generator function here, function, and you can name it. Let's suppose I will name it to p4. Okay, so we have a generator function here, and we will create a asynchronous, okay, asynchronous function. Okay, and we will have await p1. Okay, so we will have build before it. Okay, so we have created a generator function with one pouch up to p1. Okay, then we will create similarly for p2 and p3. Okay, so we have p1, p2, and p3. Now what we'll do, we will execute this generator function. Okay, so let p5 equal to p4. Okay, now what we will do, we can have a async scope here. Okay, so we have a basically asynchronous scope here, so that we can use this async method with await. Okay, so you can use console.log, and you can call p5.next, so it will get the first promise. Okay, and then you can use await. Okay, so in console you can see we have got the value of this p1. Okay, that means up to this we have paused this generator function, and we have got the promise result, which is p1, and this time the generator functions done is false. That means we have another more steps there. Okay, so now if you will do console next, then you will get p2. Okay, if you want again do one more time, then see, here we are getting the sequence p1, p2, and p3, but here you can see we have this one at 500, 200, and 100. That means asynchronous operations are not equal in timing. Okay, but we are getting in sequence. p1 is getting first, p2 is getting first, p3 is getting first, because we have created the eld. Okay, so we have created the eld to execute p1 first. If we'll call this one, then we will have first one executed, then it will call, then 2, then again 3. So you can manage your multiple async operations if you want to get the response in sequence. Okay, whatever the API call is, that you not have to worry about, you will get your response in series. Okay, so if you will do this again, then you will get undefined and done. Okay, done true. So the value is undefined and the done is true. Now if you want to use this with for loop, because generator functions are basically created for using in for loop, so that's why it is mostly used, okay, in for loop. So for that you can create for let a of, let's suppose p5, and we will have console.log a. Okay, now we will have to use the await here. In console you can see our response is coming. That means you can easily maintain your asynchronous operations. If you want the asynchronous operations response in series, you can use the generator function with this technique. Okay, and you will get your response in series, no matter who will come first, because all have different timings for response, but you will get your response in series. Okay, so this is the best example you can use if you have multiple promises with asynchronous operations. Okay, and above example was with basic. Okay, so you can use this in your for loop or while loop whenever you have to use. Okay, and this much was in generator function. Okay, so I hope you have got to understand whatever the generator function is and how to use with your normal operations and with loop and with multiple async operations. Okay, subscribe our channel digitalconnect.com for next coming videos on JavaScript. So stay tuned and thanks for watching the video.